Hello and welcome to Thought Leader Magazine. My name is Chris Carr. I'm the CEO of a company called Fairtech. We are a digital marketing agency located just outside the city of Philadelphia. Today we have Ryan Jacobs from SEMrush. Ryan and I get to speak a lot. It's really exciting. We work with a lot of software companies for our clients and on behalf of our clients, but probably the best one that we have is SEMrush. SEMrush allows us to handle a large majority of the analytics and the keyword analysis behind how we do SEO, a lot of how we scale our social media, how we do our content marketing. And it's kind of when we need to make data-driven decisions, so much of our reporting for our clients comes from SEMrush, which is really exciting. And in that process, I got to get really close with Ryan. Ryan he's a sales executive at SEMrush, but he's been in the industry forever and super smart guy. And I was like, hey man, after talking to him for about 5 minutes, not 5 minutes, about 5 or 6 times, I was like, dude, you are perfect for our show. So Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Awesome.
We are going to get into 2 critical areas today. The first one is every time I work with clients, we develop what is called an editorial calendar, and the editorial calendar allows us to try to schedule out and be proactive about the content that's going to go out in the next 30, 60, or 90 days. What we do in that editorial calendar is we find keywords that are in this sweet spot of not being ultra competitive, but they do have really high search volume. But one of the approaches that we found very effective is rather than starting out with a brand new keyword that we have no content for, is to look at the content that we're already ranking for, but we're not on page 1 for. Because the concept is, the idea is that, you know what, if I could start on third base or even second base or third base, the distance to get to home plate is remarkably closer than starting from infinity. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to pick Ryan's brain, and we're probably going to go back and forth on that concept first. So tell me, Ryan, what tactics do you see at SEMrush? What tools do you use? You know, you've seen this phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say in regards to pushing things to get to like page 1, is mainly based off of consistency. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about content and backlinks. You know, providing good content for your users, having a good user experience. But at the end of the day, as you know, Chris, there's so many different variables that go into SEO that, you know, something simple wrong from a technical perspective on your website might be holding you back. Load speeds might be holding you back. But it's mainly, from my perspective, is all about consistent content, having a blog that you have consistent posts out on, and your backlink profile. Usually what you'll find from people that are ranking better than you, they have a stronger backlink profile. So diving in and analyzing that kind of information is really what a lot of people do when they're using SEMrush. You can go in and put in a domain and identify all the different backlinks that they might be getting, and basically use that information to do a backlink outreach. So to acquire new backlinks, if you're looking at the people that are on page 1 versus you being on page 2, and you notice that they have a lot more backlinks, maybe it's a good idea to try to acquire those backlinks that you haven't already acquired.
Sure.
But to me, it's all about consistent, good content. And, you know, with SEMrush, I mean, we have an SEO writing assistant that basically grades your content as you're writing it. We have a content audit part of our software that basically is going to be able to go and help you rewrite older content that's not reaching that many people, analyze good content that's getting shared more on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and all the different social media platforms, and ones that are actually attracting a lot of backlinks as well. So there's a lot of different variables that go into it, but make sure your website is technically sound. That's a big thing. I mean, with the ADD the world is in with the internet, you know, load speed is huge. So if you have a page that you have great content on, but it takes people a long time to get into the page, your bounce rates are going to go up. Guess what? Google knows when your bounce rates are higher. If people are ranking above you and their bounce rates aren't as bad, but you have better content, it's basically what Google's going to look at, and they're going to dock you for your rankings.
Sure. And then maybe from a content strategy standpoint, what do you do from a content strategy standpoint? Is there any techniques you would do from that?
I mean, like you were saying before, is finding the good keywords that have good volumes that don't have a more difficult like keyword difficulty. There's a metric inside of SEMrush called keyword difficulty that basically gives you metric from 0 to 100. The higher it is to 100, the more difficult it is to rank for that keyword. So if that keyword difficulty is really high, basically it's saying there's a lot of domains that are trying to rank for this keyword that are really powerful, that have a strong domain authority, and they're going to be able to rank better than you in most cases if you have a really high keyword difficulty percentage. So that's definitely something you always want to keep your eye on, is finding that sweet spot that have good volumes, but also something that's not that difficult to move in rankings on.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that what we were finding is not only identifying really great keywords, but what I was shocked about, and I've been doing this for like 19 years, is let's say hypothetically, I'm trying to get ranked for, a keyword that's like baseball bat, right?
Yeah.
Baseball bat's broad, really big keyword, right? And in the process of looking to get found for the word baseball bat, I went from page infinity to maybe page 5. And maybe that word is ultra competitive. But then when I go and I look in SEMrush, or I'll look in a keyword tool, I'll find that in the effort to get the word baseball bat on page 1, somehow they gave me credit for the keyword like aluminum baseball bat, or, aluminum bats for teenagers.
Yeah.
And what I was finding is that I couldn't get the core keyword there sometimes, but if I found that those other ancillary keywords got to page 2 or page 3, what I was doing is I was working with my clients to amplify content, so that those keywords, I would write a little bit more depth about those keywords that I unintentionally got on the first page, got higher in the rankings for.
Yeah. They're
not on page 1 yet, but now aluminum baseball bat is on page 2. I write more content in that same page about aluminum baseball bats, and all of a sudden I'm on page 1 for a keyword that I didn't intend to get, but still has value.
Well, and then it's all about just getting them on your site and keeping them there.
Correct.
And that's where like the internal linking stuff comes in.
Yeah.
It's like if you get there by aluminum baseball bat, but you have internal linking that takes them to baseball bat in general, that goes to another page on your site. First of all, that's going to keep more traffic flowing through your site. So, I mean, that's another variable that's really important, is how strong is your internal linking? The big thing that I mentioned before, like bounce rates, like you don't want people to get to your site and leave. Like, so if you can get them there any way possible, then your goal is just to keep them there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's one of the things that I think is going to be really important as well, is that like I think it was HubSpot or somebody, and I was just telling the story today. I did one of our other podcasts this morning, and there was a guy at HubSpot, and he goes, "Hey, what do you want to be on the first page of Google for?" And I'm like, "Oh, SEO. I'm sorry, not what I want to be on the first. What do you want to do to basically affect your marketing?" And I was like, "Well, I want to be really good at SEO. I want to get people on the first page of Google." And he's like, "Well, why do you want that?" I'm like, "Duh." I'm like, "I want it because I want people to come to my website." He's like, "Why do you want people to come to your website?" I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, this guy's
no. But he was right. He goes, "What happens if you bring tons of people to your website, but your website sucks, and that you don't have a really great message, and then people get there, you only get one bite of the apple, and then they leave.
Yeah,
they won't come back." He's like, "Dude, you have to figure out the whole thing." You know what I mean?
For sure.
And so, that's one of the things we do. I mean, we're partners with HubSpot, and what I find is that HubSpot gets me part of the way, and then I use your technology to get me the other part of the way. But at the end of the day, no matter how much science I get to bring people like the horse to the well, they're not going to take a drink if your content, the commitment to your content sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just
stinks. I mean, from a content perspective, and the other thing that I find a lot is that, like, even when your content is really strong, and usually with content writers, they're very creative and they might write the best article like on earth, but it's not well optimized. It doesn't have the right keywords in it. So you also can write a lot of really good content, but also that's not going to rank well. So some people have awesome websites, but don't rank well. Their content is great, and like people that get to their site like it, but it's just not well optimized. And that's what a lot of people use SEMrush for, is, the SEO writing system that's basically going to take your piece of content, you throw it into that, and it's going to give you a score on how it's actually going to help you rank. So good content's amazing, but what is it worth if it's not getting anyone to your site?
Yeah. And that's one of those tools that I use. I mean, I try to get people when they push back like, oh yeah, we just use Yoast. And I'm like, dude, like Yoast is nothing compared to the technology and the tools of a company that literally is cloning the web and figuring out all the analytics and all the horsepower behind what you guys are doing. I mean, it's not even close.
Yeah.
But what I say to clients is like, what if I had a tool that was going to tell you before I even publish this piece of content, you know what, I got a poor chance of beating my competition with this. The readability isn't nearly as high as my competition. The words on the page, like literally there's a target of all the people that are on page one, and say it's 1,250 and you're trying to pass a 500 word article in.
Yeah.
Like, very, very good chance you're not going to beat them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that the length of content directly impacts rankings, but it's not a causation, but sometimes I think there's definitely a correlation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I find that really interesting. All right. So now we go and we identify these really great keywords, right?
Yeah.
We run them through the tool prior to being published. We had that core word. We're still working on that core word. These ancillary, what I call LSI keywords, they go to the top. We write more content. They go to page 2. Then we identify what's there on page 2. You write more content to amplify those ancillary keywords.
Yeah.
Now you're getting found for those keywords on the first page of Google. What I find is it's so funny is that in the content that I use to amplify the LSI keyword from page 2 to page 1, I recheck my rankings and I get even more LSIs. It's like every time you go and improve your keyword, like aluminum baseball bat, something else comes up, like aluminum baseball bats for kids. And I do aluminum baseball bats for kids, and it's like little league equipment. You know what I mean? And it's like a wave. And so like, it sounds weird, but everyone tries to start over from scratch on their content, right? And you're constantly like saying, hey, just write another blog. I'm like, you should be surprised at how much time Neil Patel says he spends 80% of his time revising decaying content than he does writing new content.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, you got to focus on the semantically related keywords, for sure. Like you're saying with aluminum baseball bat, you start getting that onto the page 1. That's going to do nothing but help you rank for baseball bat and get you to the first page. So, but yeah, I mean, in regards to revising old content, that's basically, what our content analyzer does. It actually will, show you exactly what you need to rewrite, what is actually identified as poor content. If it doesn't have enough words, if it has this many views, it's considered like poor content if it only has 15 views in the last 30 days. So it's going to tell you need to go back and revisit this, or you need to just take it off your website. Yeah. Some people put stuff up there that's been up there for years and there's no reach to it. So I'm not saying to just delete all old stuff off your website, but it might be worth revisiting. And even if it's like an old piece of content that you wrote 5 years ago, maybe taking that and throwing it into a tool like the SEO writing system of SEMrush and having it grade you from SEO purposes. That might change. It might tell you to add 10 different keywords in there. You add those 10 different keywords and guess what? Like you just revise that piece of content and the estimated reach goes through the roof. Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting from an aspect of, when you go and you think about the amount of content that you do and you set it and you forget it and you have this award-winning article that's actually scoring really well. And then you look at the analytics and you're like, well, I don't get as many leads as I thought I would do.
Yeah.
Well, let me just go write a brand new blog instead of like rejuvenating the content that's already there. You know what I mean? And I think some of that comes into your editorial calendar. I think some of that comes into just the knowledge of SEO. And sometimes I think it comes into, you get greedy and you want more keywords. And I'm like, you know what? Once that decaying content comes off page 1, it's just like that whole dead body thing, like if you don't know, there's an analogy that says, you hide a dead body on page 2 of Google because nobody goes there, I mean, that's like that's one of those things when you got to be honest with yourself with your content.
Yeah.
The hard part that I will say, and this is the struggle, and this is a little bit of testing, is when I go in and I try to revise good content, I'm always afraid that I'm going to cut the wrong chord, and the words or the phrases that made my keyword rank originally, the sentence that I modified.
Yeah.
That's the nervous part. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if you make any changes, I mean, it's at the end of the day, you make that change and then you can go back and look at it a week or two out. And if it starts going down, go back and revert it. Yep. So that's what's key about keeping your eye on that kind of stuff. And what a lot of people that aren't, comfortable with the word SEO or the SEO world, that's something that they don't realize, that you can change your website at will. It's not like as soon as you come up there that it's, like you can never take it down. And that's where the analysis part comes in, where you'll find a lot of SEO experts and strategists constantly looking at their Google Analytics, looking at a software suite like SEMrush, and identifying exactly what is working and doing more of a competitive intelligence like breakdown. Look at who's ranking better than you. What are they doing different than you? Like, do they have more content? Is their domain authority just better than yours? Is their backlink profile better than yours? Do they have backlinks you've never even thought about reaching out to? So backlinks is a very tedious process.
Yep.
So that's something that people don't really get all excited to do, but it's still extremely important to help you rank better.
Yeah. I mean, and the challenge is that, well, let's talk about how you get backlinks. You can earn them. You can write really great content that people actually link to. Hard, not impossible, hard.
Yeah.
Finding like you can do like a Brian Dean backlinko thing where you're almost like begging for links, which he has these tactics of finding people that are good, what I would call link givers. And then you reach out to them and hope that they link to you.
Yeah.
Then there's what I call open door links, these are just the links that sort of anybody can get if they have the wisdom to know where to find them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do find that the links that anybody can get, the firepower on them is often not nearly as strong as links that you have to earn.
Yeah.
But sometimes on these ancillary keywords, like it's those links that you find that don't have as much firepower, sometimes they have enough firepower to get aluminum bats on page one. It might not be strong enough to get baseball bats on page one, right? But it could definitely, all of those ancillary words, those LSI, those semantic keywords, a lot of those backlinks will help that get over the hump.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like there's going to be backlinks, and it's, like I said, it's a tedious process. You could reach out to 100 people requesting a backlink. You might get 4, maybe 10 responses, and then 4 or 5 that actually will give you a backlink. But what I always tell, my clients is basically it's a, scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Yep. If you write a really strong piece of content, give them a backlink, and giving them traffic, you're much more likely to be able to go to them and ask, hey, can you hook me up with a backlink? So, a lot of people that are even in competition sometimes send each other back and forth.
I know. Back in the day, there used to be a tactic that was called link exchange.
Yeah.
Google is smart enough to know that was just a game. However, I feel like I've seen enough metrics to say that if you do it within reason and it's not like you're not gaming the system, they're not saying the two companies that once I've linked to you once, that if you ever link back to me, that it's like, oh my gosh, Fairtex Authority must be zilch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Google's smart enough to be like, you know what I mean? Like that means that like ZDNet and Microsoft can only link to each other once or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
However, I do find that backlinking is kind of the Wild West. Like I have a friend who runs an SEO agency and he primarily only does backlinking. And he teases me like I'm not an SEO company because of how much time and energy I put into content. You know what I mean? Like he's one of my best friends. So I like him.
Well, I hope so. I mean, it's a balancing act.
It is.
That's what I'm constantly telling clients. It's like you can't make 2 of you. So you got to figure out like what to actually focus on, but you got to hit on all the major things. It's like the technical SEO, the content, the backlinks. But, making sure if you have a website, minimally having your Google Analytics connected, having your Google Search Console connected. Because for those people out there that don't actually look into those things, like, why do you have a website?
Yeah.
If you're not looking to make it better, obviously it's a good place for people to just grab your contact info and stuff like that. And that kind of leads me into, more on like the listings side of things, like your Google My Business listing, like why, I mean, when we started talking about this podcast and you're talking about like, let's talk about from page 2 to page 1, one of the thoughts that I had was like, how about talk about getting into a local pack?
Yeah.
Because how many people are going out there, 73% of all high intent traffic visit a directory before they visit a domain. So like, how good are you at landing into local packs?
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole different ballgame, but that's another area that's like kind of can get missed. But there's so many different variables that it's like, it's not just a one answer kind of thing. It's a matter of balancing all the major categories. And obviously, the creating the good content, I think, is the more fun part of it, because it takes a little bit more like, and I don't want to, downplay the importance of getting good backlinks and stuff like that, but, it takes a creative mindset. It's also more of like a wow factor to clients, versus like, you approach a client and say, hey, I got you this backlink. Some people in upper management might be like, okay, so what? But if you say, hey, look what I just did for your brand awareness with this piece of content, they can read it and say, oh, wow, that's awesome. Look how much traffic it brought to our website. Versus like, the backlink side of things, where it's not as easy for, upper management that might not be too privy to SEO and to the digital landscape, to be able to see the impact that it has.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I'm always trying to wrestle with, right, is trying to say, when you only have a certain amount of hours in the day, or for us, for our clients, is like, what is the best use of your time?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is just that with content, we've found that we've scored really well when what we call go from being reactive to proactive. And, reactive is like, I got a trade show, I got to sprint for that trade show, or I got Christmas coming up, I got to sprint for that. But if you're in a scenario where you are consistently putting out content, and what content is going out in the next 30, 60, and 90 days, and you can set your watch by it, that's what thought leaders do. And whether you're going to win on Google or not, like, it's definitely one of those things that you want to be doing that rather than not doing that. Like, because I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like, there was like a line from Swingers. Remember that movie Swingers?
Yeah.
He's like trying to get the girl back. And it's like this like awesome line. The writing in Swingers is great. And it was like, it's like, dude, I totally want to get the girl back. I totally want to get the girl back. And he's like, well, he's like, then you got to stop thinking about her. He's like, well, how am I going to get her back if I stop thinking about her? He goes, I promise you, the moment you stop thinking about her, she's going to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
It's usually how it works.
I know, you're not kidding. Dude, I swear to God, that's how SEO works, right? Like, if you go and you write content and then you SEO optimize it and you continuously just keep working on it and working on it.
Yeah.
You do want to measure stuff. You do want to do that stuff, but it's just like, concentrate on saying something of value and consistently say it.
Well, consistent. Yeah.
And the SEO will come.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
For sure.
There's a lot of people that have tons and tons of traffic, and they didn't strain a gnat to get there.
Well, and I have a problem anytime anybody really uses the word sprint. Like like when I talk to clients, like, we have a sprint we're on. It's like, I'm not sure what your sprint is about, but hate to even say this phrase, but it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
It is.
So, like, it really is. So like, if you're trying to stay relevant for the long term, then why are you constantly sprinting? Like, why not do the right stuff consistently every single day, and you won't be put into the position where you need to have a sprint. So anytime somebody talks about a sprint, not to say like, don't work hard, but but when they're referencing a sprint, it's like, why did you get to the point where you needed to have a sprint? That's what I, look back on as a leader, well, why are we in this position in the first place? There should have been some kind of systems put in place. And I know you're a huge systems guy, systems put in place to make sure that you don't need to get to that point where you need to sprint.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is that we try to design our systems to be as nimble as possible. I think if you don't have structure,
Yeah.
right, when something does come up, you're dead.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because you're just like, you don't want to tell a client, like, I'd like to help you about that event that's really important for you, but I got to write a blog about this long tail keyword that is going to rank in 90 days. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, dude, stop that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you don't put something down, right, and you don't have an editorial calendar and you don't stay committed to it, you are just going to hop from one fire to the next fire to the next fire. And you're never going to get there because you're constantly chasing your tail.
I mean, everybody's guilty of doing that at some level, at some point in their
Sure.
You know, I definitely know that I have been in regards to that. But, and, you know, the ability to, like, you know, run into a situation and pivot, you know, and that's what the systems really put in place for you is like, after you have a good amount of experience dealing with a lot of different kinds of issues, you know how to pivot. It's not about when it's time to pivot, it's knowing how to pivot.
Yeah. And monitoring yourself that you're not pivoting and then pivoting and then pivoting and then pivoting. It's like, dude, if you don't stay
pivot
all one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's where that's one of the arguments I have for Fairtech is we're sort of the time that you don't have, and we're going to be the diligence that you can't stick to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we are set and forget it, but what I am saying is that, you know what, we're going to write it down on paper and we're going to come to an agreement on it and we're going to chart our course.
Yeah.
And you can come to me and try to change it as much as you want, but it's like that second level of accountability. Like, you're going to feel like a total douchebag if you change your mind every single month.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But you will, because I know this, because I do it to my own account manager for Fairtech. Like, we treat our own marketing like we're an account.
Yeah.
I'm like our worst client because I have a new idea every single day.
Yeah.
And she's
strategy. Yep. Yeah.
She's amazing and she's patient, but man, she's probably like, dude, you are the worst.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
well,
so
that's also the way that leaders' brains work. You're constantly thinking of new things. So
I'm always smarter than the system that I even created for myself. Like, in other words, I know the right thing. I mean, it's the same way with like eating, right? Like, I know work out more than you eat, and then maybe some less carbs than you know what I mean? Like, I know that stuff, but you just don't do it.
Yeah, but
editorial calendar, same exact thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know, write your plan, live your plan, do your plan.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Facebook came up with an algorithm change that it's going to affect 5% of the market, but it's so cool. So I need to tell everybody about it. You know what I mean? You're like, awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's where you can kind of be your own worst enemy sometimes.
Oh, I know. That's why you need an agency. So your boss doesn't drown his own ship.
Well, when it comes to strategy, at the end of the day, like, everybody's like adapting all the time, especially with what's going on in the world right now. A big thing with me is adopt and adapt with what's going on right now. It is what it is. You know, it's kind of like figure it out. You know, you got to make sure that you understand what's going on. You actually, you know, are accepting of it, and then just like you said before, pivot. You know, and it works the times. So, you know, that's really important. That I think a lot of people are struggling with right now is like, you know, well, I'm struggling because of this. It's like, oh, all right, well, why don't you succeed because of this?
Yeah, I mean, we're up as a company. It's like all those clients that basically decided that they were going to make or break their sales and marketing through networking.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when was the last time you shook someone's hand? Right?
Yeah.
Like, you better find a way to. This is actually going to be one of the best blessings of your life, because it's going to force you to win in a digital space for the first time, because you might have had some crackerjack guy who can win tons of business on a golf course or taking him out to lunch.
Yeah.
That's not going to, that's harder to do these days.
Yeah.
You know?
And I used to be that guy out on the road all the time when I was in IT recruitment. So,
yeah.
You know, doing the shaking of hands, doing the networking. I mean, we were going to do that event at Yards Brewing.
Yeah.
When that got canceled. And,
yeah. I knew there was supposed to be this like really great keynote speaker, super handsome. Yeah.
Who did he work for?
A lot like me. Yeah. Yeah. But I do think that some of the things we talked about today, I'm going to kind of wrap it up, is some of the things I think are really going to bring a lot of value. If you're just tuning into this now, or you're late to this, and you're, the things we covered today are just understanding the power of knowing your data, right? And being in a scenario here where if you have a strategy to get keywords from infinity to page 2, there's maybe to page 5, there's another strategy to get those ancillary keywords from page 2 to page 1. And you hang in there for those bigger keywords.
Yeah.
And then I thought another thing that you brought up really well was talking about content decay and just using some tools like SEMrush or leaning on your agency partner to dig into those tools to let you know what, the content that you're rocking for today might not be there tomorrow. And so it'd be better to amplify existing content than it would be to just continuing to write your next best-selling book,
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the one thing that I, in regard to the content decay, we just put out a new tool called Impact Hero. It basically is going to give you a breakdown of how much people you're reaching, what the estimated reach is, how many leads would actually disappear out of your bucket if you were to pull that piece of content down.
Wow.
Engagement scores, where it's you're looking at leads, you're looking at things that you're nurturing, and your overall reach. In regards to content, it's mainly focused. Well, it is focused on content creation and content marketing, and we produce that piece of software. Especially with all of the new things that are happening with the amount of content that's being put out there in the last 5 months, and there's been more content put on the web than probably any other 5 months in history.
Correct.
And there's been reading of it in the last 5 months than any other time in history. So it's more important day by day. And one thing you got to understand is that there's always going to be other people that are trying to do the exact same thing that you're doing. So don't be discouraged if you don't see results within the first month. It's just keep doing what you're doing. That's the biggest part that I can't say enough is that don't give up. Keep doing what you're doing and just be consistent with the amount of content that you're putting out. And just get better at crafting better content, get better at getting better backlinks and stuff like that. So but it's definitely more of a marathon, and it's something that you got to keep consistently your eye on, figure out what's working, what's not working, not just throw stuff up on a website and cross your fingers, and that's where the data comes into play. That's why as a data provider, working at a data provider like SEMrush or, being able to dive into your Google Analytics and understanding what that is telling you is of utmost importance instead of just I put a blog post up on my website. Hopefully people visit it.
Yep. Now tell me about Impact Hero. When's that going to be launched?
It is actually live now.
Oh, awesome.
So there's definitely, the ability to go to SEMrush.com. You can reach out to me at ryan.jacobs@SEMrush.com. I can get you set for the trial period. But it is a live feature. I can even show you a little bit of it if you want to share my screen.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you know how to do that? It's on the bottom. You got to share screen.
So you can see, there we go. Can you see this, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is inside of Impact Hero. So essentially it's going to be able to show you the amount of reach that it's getting from external traffic. Nurturing is basically internal traffic. And then leads are basically somebody that's left contact info on your website. It gives you different kind of content insights. But like I was saying before, it's going to give you an impact score, and it'll break it down over 30 days. So it's going to show you how many leads you might be missing out on if you were to take this piece of content off of your website. It'll show you when it was published, overall engagement scores. But basically it's about scroll rate. So the engagement score is based off of scroll depth, how far are they scrolling down on your page? And then you can filter by these different things, but it's actually going to be able to be set up. You put a widget of code on your website or set it up through Google Tag Manager. Right now, we're looking at all folders based off the last 30 days for this specific website. And it's going to give you different metrics on the impact score, how much traffic externally, overall bounce rates. And this is just the reach side of things. You click into nurturing, and it's a whole new set of data from external traffic to internal, how much impact it has, your bounce rates. So obviously, with this piece of content, you need to work on bounce rates.
Tell me about external versus internal. What does that mean?
People coming from outside of the website. Internal is somebody that's already inside of your website.
Yeah. Okay.
Page.
Okay.
Yeah, but the engagement score is definitely something you want to keep your eye on. Like I said, it's based off of overall scroll depth, so you know that people are engaged in your content, they're not looking at it, not scrolling at all, and leaving.
Yeah.
You want to make sure, obviously, this is a little bit higher. Your impact score just means how many people like you're actually going to be, seeing as leads. So that's basically more, relative to this side of things. But throughout this, it's going to give you different insights of like, why we're saying you should do that. Why we think so. All those different kind of things. But this is huge for in-house content marketers.
Yeah.
Definitely something that I've been meaning to talk to you about. Over at Ferrotech, because I think that this could be good for some of your bigger content marketing, clients. But this is something that's brand new. People are jumping all over it, and definitely something I've been talking to a lot of people about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then, so this says example.com. Where was this connected to?
What do you mean?
This content distribution for example.com was just
this is just something that we put together for the dashboard.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
for demoing purposes.
Yep. So you're going to put this piece of code on your computer and it's going to evaluate your entire computer. Are you able to go? It looks like you're able to go down to a certain URL. Like,
you can different like subfolders you'd want it to crawl and stuff like that as well.
That's
so
awesome.
You don't even need to set up like the entire page. It's not going to crawl your entire computer. It's going to set up, it's going to crawl your web page, and you basically tell it what folders you want it to actually do. Awesome. So right now we're looking at all folders for example.com. But if you want to do the blog, show the data specifically on your blog.
Yep.
The content that's on your blog. So we're seeing a lot of people jumping all over this though.
Very, very cool stuff.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
With the content decay stuff, this as well as our, our content analyzer is something that you can take a look at. Basically, it's going to give you a breakdown of like different things you need to rewrite or remove, needs to be updated, quick review, overall poor content, stuff like that. So,
hey, well, listen, man, this is awesome. We're going to kind of wrap it up here. But if people want to know about SEMrush or they want to, talk to you, you're dropping some serious knowledge bombs here. How would they do that?
You can feel free to reach out to ryan.jacobs@semrush.com. If you have any direct questions, you can visit our website at semrush.com. Basically you'll be asked to, log in. If you're not actually a already current customer or user, you can reach out to me. I can get you set up with like a trial. I can show you around the software, show you what it can do. But yeah, semrush.com, you can find us out there. We have really strong brand awareness.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you have the privilege of working with Ryan, try to request him. Are they able to request you personally, or does the man yeah,
for sure.
Request Ryan. It's the best.
I'm the only one talking right now. So
awesome. Hey Ryan, this is awesome, man. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Love to have you back.
LinkedIn, if you just want to shoot me a LinkedIn message as well.
Yep. Sounds great. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You got it, Chris.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you. See ya.